Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
And today we're talking about the best picture of last year. CODA, which is an acronym, stands for Child of Deaf Adults. And that is indeed what this film is about. It's a remake of a French-Belgian film from 2014 entitled La Famille Bélier. It's about a young girl whose family are all deaf, apart from her. So two parents and an older brother, they're deaf, she can hear. The family's a fishing family. The father and son work on a fishing boat and she's always working with them because she is the interpreter. She looks after them. But she can sing. It turns out she joined a school choir. The teacher, a wonderful man from Mexico named... what is his name? I can't roll my R's, so you'll have to... Bernardo Villalobos.
Bernardo.
Yes, he insists that you roll the R's, and if you can't, then use Mr. V. He identifies that she's got some talent for this. And her desire to pursue it, and possibly a scholarship at Berkeley, starts to cause a little bit of drama in the household, because she won't be with the family anymore if she goes. And not only will she go and leave them, it will be for one thing that they cannot appreciate, which is the beauty of her voice. So there's one Best Picture, and by all accounts, I say by all accounts, by a kind of general reading of the reception, I think it was kind of seen as a bit middle of the road, and not really the Best Picture. Well, it's a consequence, I think, of how Best Picture is voted for.
I mean, one could get very angry at this because really, if this is the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences idea of, what film art is, it's shocking, right? I mean, which is not to say that it's not entertaining and not enjoyable. If it had been a movie of the week on television, I'd be quite happy to see it. But I mean, in a year where you have like Jane Campion and Steven Spielberg kind of, doing the films that they did, which, kind of really explore what is possible, kind of expressing in audiovisual form. This is a completely middle of the road, unexciting, slightly manipulative, not very deep movie, which is nonetheless quite entertaining.
Very entertaining, and I had a really good time watching it. It's a nice. It's just going to be the word that comes up. It's nice. It's a nice, sweet, quite moving family drama.
Yeah.
It hasn't met a cliche it didn't like. Every single one in the book. That's just what it is, right? So I think there's partly a consequence of how Best Picture is voted for, which is the preferential ballot, which is where you rank the films, and then you rank 1 to 10, and all the number one votes are counted, and if nothing reaches 50%, then the second votes are counted, and once something reaches 50%, I believe that's how the preferential ballot works. Which is why something like The Power of the Dog, which is the Jane Campion film you mentioned, which was the hot favourite to win, but it was also quite a controversial film. It pissed off all of the cowboys. I think going back to 2005 when Brokeback Mountain, I think, was widely seen as the best film that year and didn't win, and something I think middle of the road won that year, Crash. It's a little bit like that, where even though it was an exceptional film, it insulted the masculinity of the American West. And so Sam Elliott got annoyed, Kevin Costner got annoyed, and people were either going to vote it number 1 or number 10. And it doesn't gain much traction. Whereas something like CODA, which is easy to like, you go, fuck it, 3 or 4. And that's how a middle-of-the-road film gets to win.
I think there's also something about, screeners now are DVDs that people see on their televisions.
Yes.
And I do think that films like The Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, they look worse on television. You don't feel their full effect. Whereas actually these low-scale movies that have kind of an audiovisual look anyway, they look better on a small screen.
Yeah, or at least they don't lose anything.
Yeah,
going to a small screen.
Well, let's just say I'm looking at the list of Academy Award nominees. I haven't seen King Richard, but I've seen all the others. And really, CODA is... if you put Belfast alongside CODA, and actually I think Belfast is better, to be fair. So really, it is the worst of those films. I mean, Dune, Don't Look Up, Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza, The Power of the Dog, West Side Story. I mean, Drive My Car, right? Which, to me is a masterpiece, really. So all of those are incredible films. And then you have, like, a really, like, a TV movie of the week, as we used to call them. So it's kind of shocking.
That is what it is.
Now, this is not anything against the film, because, it is kind of... Well, it is likable, and I enjoyed it, and I had a good time. But really, one could have a different take on it, because, like you said, it's full of cliches of all kinds. I think it's a little bit condescending, right?
To the deaf, to the audience?
Yeah, like, so, some people were praising it because, here are deaf people being sexual. But actually, it's deaf people turned into a sex joke, really. Yeah, I mean, I think the relationship with the parents is not real. It is kind of, like a humorous effect. Oh, hot mama. So it's all about that, which is in itself, I think, turning. So, so the joke is now that before deaf people were asexual and just, the reason for existence was being deaf and being virtuous. Now, this hypersexualization is, to me, in itself a problem.
It's made a joke of in that the parents are having sex all the time, which is, I think, if they were hearing, I think that would also be a joke.
But it would also be a bad joke.
Yeah.
Because, the thing is, if you make a joke of it, it's funny.
Yeah.
And it works. But actually, that's almost like a character trait. It reappears and reappears and reappears throughout the film.
But then the additional joke, which is brought about by them being deaf, is that they can't hear that they are being incredibly noisy, and the daughter can hear it all the time. And when she has a boy over, he can hear it too, and that causes So yeah, it's not a good joke, but it does also very effectively communicate how deeply these two people love each other, which I do appreciate. It's very nice to see that.
Yeah, actually, I love the whole family feel. I love the brother very much.
Yes.
So kind of all of those things were nice, but it also felt like sitcom-y.
Yeah.
And banal, really.
Yeah.
Both visually, kind of orally, like, I mean, nothing against choirs, because I love choirs, and I love choirs doing Bach, but there's something about high school choirs, with the dee-wop, that it kind of, it murders music in a rather similar way that this film murders cinema. It banalizes everything.
At least they didn't do like a rap breakdown. I'd say one thing that was very effective for me, something that I really liked, is in this central scene where the daughter is performing in the school choir. That it's the show. They sing a couple of songs and she's part of the choir, and it's all very nice. And the parents and the brother are in the audience, sort of not really getting it, because they're there and they know they can't hear, and so they're just basically getting a bit bored. And then it comes to her duet with the boy. Which we've seen, them working on together, and they've been getting affectionate together and so on. And this is going to be the moment. And this is the thing that the teacher, Mr. V, has noticed her voice, and he's been working with her on it and so on. So this is going to be the moment. And the film drops the sound out when they start singing. So, like, you've been waiting for this song. It's been, it's coming. And then the film takes it from you, and it puts you in the position of the parents. And I thought, oh yeah, I did sort of see that coming.
It did.
But what I didn't appreciate would be good about it is that it's always about the dad in things like this. It's never the mum. It's always the dad who appreciates things and has to come round. And the dad, not hearing anything, looks around and sees people's reactions, and he sees them nodding their head, and then he sees someone crying, and that
I like
really works for me. That moved me. That he gets it. He gets what his daughter. He gets what she wants and what she's doing, and how it can affect someone else, and then it leads to the scene where he asks her to sing for him.
Yes,
which you can't of course you can understand why you would want that, but but of course it doesn't make straightforward sense. But he is asking to get it, So yes, it's extremely cliche, extremely middle of the road, and you do see it coming, but it also worked for me. Which is what this kind of film does, and I think that's what you mean probably when you say it's on the slightly manipulative side.
It's more than on the side. It's very manipulative, really.
Well, you started off by saying slightly. I was only quoting.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I've changed my mind now. I'm getting angrier. It's very manipulative. And there were so many, awkwardnesses. I mean, I think the best thing about it is the performers. It was lovely to see Marley Matlin. All the other people are really quite wonderful. Mm-hmm. I thought the teacher was overly mannered. I mean, I was a bit surprised when they said, "Oh, and here's his family," because I just assumed he was gay.
Didn't you see the shot where he said, "I've got stuff to do as well," because she was late and there's all toys and kid stuff in the background?
That doesn't mean anything nowadays.
Well, I suppose that's true. Might be in a little community like that, maybe.
Well, I just don't take it that way.
No, fair enough.
But anyway, very enjoyable performers and so on. But I do think the direction, even of the actors, is, not as good as it could be. Some of the teenage performers are a bit awkward, I think, including the lead. And particularly the boy who is meant to be like her object of desire that she sings a duet with. I mean, so on the one hand, that gaucheness is the kind of gaucheness that you expect to see at that age, but it's also too much gaucheness. It also feels stiff, yeah? Mm-hmm. So the effect is not one of natural, yeah? I think it feels like unskilled, really. But the visual and oral dimension are kind of what I take most issue with.
Yeah.
There's not a single visual thing that you think, oh, that's an interesting shot, or that's an interesting way of presenting that, or it's just straight up front banal.
Point when the daughter sat out with the dad, just before he asks her to sing, later on in the film, he says, the stars look more beautiful out at sea than they do here, something to that effect. And you go, oh, I wish I could have seen them.
Exactly. I mean, this is a movie, right? I mean, and we don't see the stars neither there nor on the sea.
No. No, but we're told about them. So.
And then, this film is so much about music and singing, and you wish they would have done something orally with it. The rehearsals, that there would be something more exciting about the presentation of the music. Yeah. So they have very interesting music choices. Right, like, Bowie and Dylan and Motown and Joni Mitchell. But, I think it seems there's no care that's been taken at all, except for the final number, which I thought the singing was lovely. Yeah,
which is where she's doing her audition for Berkeley.
Yeah. And
well, no, you're right. The music, the singing is nice. Of course, and it has the moment where the parents come in. They sit upstairs. She starts signing while she's singing, which is lovely too. And again, the moment that it happened, I was moved, and then as it went on, I stopped being moved by it. It was going on a bit, and then there's another verse where the film just launches into this closing montage, which is the most ridiculous. I mean, I get how it's trying to be lovely and tie everything up, but the idea that everybody learns sign language in the community, I just wasn't having it really. But that's what we're showing in this summing up montage. Everyone became
friends. And also,
friends.
I think it's a bit retrograde, the whole thing. So, I've been following the Spanish singer called Rosalén, who's fabulous. And, she does all her stage performing now with somebody signing, right?
Yeah.
And they're signing and they're moving and, the signing becomes part of the dancing.
Yeah,
and, it's fantastic, right? This could have used a bit of oomph in that way.
Yeah, and I saw a great video of a rap gig. Maybe it was Run the Jewels, I can't remember. But they've got the side, basically the deaf section is off to the side, stood in front of the signer, who is, dancing and essentially rapping along, but she's doing it physically. It's fantastic to watch, Yeah, I just didn't have that liveliness.
Anyway, a kind of really, the filmic equivalent of painting by numbers.
Yeah. Do you hear what? David Fincher said that filmmaking's like painting. Film directing is like painting. He said it's like painting when the canvas is 200 feet wide and 100 feet tall, and it's 4 miles away, and you've got 500 people holding the brush, and you're going up, down, no, more blue.
Well, I think I don't think this director thought much about a canvas or the question of more blue. Anyway,
I mean, that's it. It's a short podcast because it is that, but And well, actually, here's the other thing that we must say, because I've been saying this for weeks. This is the first ever straight-to-video Best Picture winner. The whole thing is that you had to get into cinemas, and of course, it did get into cinemas to qualify, but a few cinemas. The film was bought, I think, 2 days after its premiere by Apple to show on Apple Plus, and that is where it's being seen.
For a record sum, I understand.
Is
from
it?
Wiki, yeah.
So the thing is
$25 million.
$25 million. So that is where it's being seen. Very few. I mean, okay, so this is partly my fault. We were going to go and see it at the Electric. It did come to the Electric. I think it had maybe 4 screenings there, and I bought tickets, and then fell asleep and just slept through, and that's the way it goes. And I lost 24 quid on the experience. But at least we've managed to see it the way the film is meant to be seen, which is on telly.
Actually, I'm not sure that's true, to be fair to the filmmakers.
Yes, I know. Yeah. The film, of course, was intended to go into cinemas and so on, which is not to say it's cinematic, but the thing is, it has been bought by a streaming service, and it's almost exclusively that's how it's being seen, right. Which is depressing for the supposed Best Picture of the year.
I don't think it was too depressing with that. I pity people who only saw West Side Story or the Power of the Dog and Nightmare Alley. If you've just seen Nightmare Alley on television, I think you haven't seen Nightmare Alley really. You might have seen bits of the plot, but you don't have the effects of the film. But I don't think we've lost much with this one.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing.
We'll never know. We can never be sure.
That's the thing. So basically, all the talk over the past, I guess, decade or so, Netflix growing, and Netflix has always been looking for a Best Picture, and it's been wanting this, and like they've really gone after the Oscars.
And what's the culmination of that? A TV movie wins Best Movie.
Right, like that's where we are. But actually, there has been a lot of talk about that's what Netflix wants. And it was a big thing because Netflix, it's such a huge project with them to get that kind of credibility.
Yeah, they're not after art; they really are after product.
But there's been no talk about the fact that this is essentially what Netflix have always wanted.
Because it's Apple.
Well, that's it. But I don't know why no one said that. I don't know why no one has said, oh, by the way, this isn't a cinema movie anymore. And it's the best film of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I've said it now. I've said it, so quote me.
Yes, I thought it first, but Mike said it, so you can quote it.
What do you mean you thought it
first? All right, let's wrap it up here. We're beating a dead horse. So thank you very much for listening. We're eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
Apple Podcasts, ironically, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I was just wanting to know what deaf people didn't like about it, that's all.
They couldn't hear it.
I'm sure it had subtitles. So, alright.
And what did they say, the deaf?
I don't know, I haven't found it.
Oh, it's on Wikipedia. Response from the deaf community. Varied reactions according to USA Today. They praised the casting and performances of deaf actors and found the depiction of deaf characters as self-sufficient and sexually active people to be in welcome contrast to previous depictions on screen. After seeing, this is a quote from Delbert Wetter, the Vice Chair of non-profit Respectability. He says, after seeing so many stories where people with disabilities are depicted as helpless, forlorn souls needing to be rescued, it is so refreshing to see a story with deaf characters that are small business owners and leaders in their fishing community with depth and nuance that rival and even exceed that of their hearing counterparts in the story. Jenna Beacom, a sensitivity reader. What is that? To prevent offending readers, publishers increasingly, though with mixed success, employ sensitivity readers to screen texts for material that could cause offence. So that's what she does, and she's a young adult author. She found much of the film, again, a quote, misrepresented, especially deaf people's competence and ability to thrive in 2021. And she said that while thrilled that the movie exists in the sense of contributing to more deaf representation and hopefully more opportunities for even better representation, she was very disturbed by how negatively the movie portrays the deaf and CODA experiences. So, mixed.
I think the key thing here is the film's depiction of the hearing child interpreting for her parents, even in settings where professional interpreters would be required by the American with Disabilities Act, such as court hearings and medical appointments, received widespread criticism as being misrepresentative.
Yes, you can't just use your kid. Okay, well.
All right, I'm ready.